Hi, my name is Anna Mann, and this is my comprehension theory. To start, I am going to give you a definition of comprehension that I found in the article by Duke and Carlisle. It said that comprehension is the act of constructing meaning with oral or written text. So the first comprehension principle involved 3 tasks. The first task was to read a passage about Aristotle's views on physics, with an auditory distraction in the background. I had a lot of difficulty with this one because when I read stuff for school especially, I have to have complete silence. And then I think it was about halfway through there was a banging that started, and that made it even worse for me to concentrate. I actually lost completely where I was in the passage at that point, and I didn't start over, but I stumbled, and by the end I didn't read the entire passage. So I'm sure the quiz showed that. It actually reminded me of being in 5th grade and trying to read in a classroom when there were kids in the corner and they would be talking while everyone was reading their chapter books. It was very frustrating to me because I needed it to be completely silent in order to comprehend what I was reading. The second task involved reading a passage that would disappear after some time. So what I tried to do was picture the words that were there before they went away, because it was black and white and you could kind of like, if you blink or close your eyes, you could sort of remember things. However, that didn't work very well, and I got really frustrated every time it would leave because I would lose my spot. And I was trying so hard to read fast enough so that I could be done with it that I wasn't comprehending anything. I did think it was easier than the first task, but I don't think I did very well, as was probably evident in my quiz. The third task involved working memory. I was to read a passage and try to remember the last word in every sentence. I focused so hard on memorizing the last word of every sentence that I didn't understand the bulk of the information in between. So any of the sentences, the middle structure, I didn't get, so I didn't comprehend anything, as I'm sure my quiz score showed. Comprehension principle number 2 involved reading 2 passages about flies creating chaos in a house. The first story I found was hard to comprehend because it contained a lot of run-on sentences. I was able to read quickly but just fluently, and I did not comprehend much of anything at all. It was also difficult because it would say the fly was flying or the fly flew, and it was just really hard for me to read. It reminded me of a kid telling a story while they're really excited and they talk really fast and they just go on and on. Then the second story was easier for me to read, but it was still difficult. I felt like I was stumbling a lot, which led to many breakdowns and me losing my spot because I would repeat things. The fluency and grammar stood out as lacking in the story, which really interrupted my comprehension. Comprehension principle number 3 involved reading a speech by Emma Watson and then watching a speech by Emma at the UN conference. I found that I comprehended the written speech much better than the oral speech because I was able to read at my own pace and I didn't have any distractions from the audience, kind of like I was just distracted by my computer now. I was able to focus more on the written text and the meaning, and I could go back and reread things rather than watching her and trying to understand and catch what she said. Usually when I watch videos for classes, I have to write down what they're saying and pause it and continue to write and then play it again. I wasn't able to do that. I also got distracted by the audience. I would show the audience or would show other people, or I was really focused on the way she was speaking and how well of a speaker she was that I wasn't comprehending as much as I did with the written text. So I found a quote by Duke and Carlisle that explains why I felt this way. And it said that written language requires readers to decode symbols. It said, these symbols make written text stable, whereas oral text, unless recorded, lack permanence. Although it was recorded, it was still difficult for me to comprehend the speech. I think just the context is easier with oral text, but I don't think that it affects comprehension very much because I understand more written, and I know that also has to do with the type of learner you are. If you are a visual learner, like some people, or if you're a read-write learner, which I am. I think that's also a large part of comprehension. For comprehension principle number 4, I had to read an article about astrophysics and then read another one about comprehension. I had many difficulties reading the one about astrophysics because I did not have a lot of background knowledge. I am not very good at science. I quit taking science courses after I took my physics class, and it also makes it difficult because I was not interested in the subject, whereas reading the second passage about comprehension was much easier for me. I think part of my lack of interest has to do with the fact that I did not know some of the words, too. It made it harder to comprehend, and it made me want to give up because I would get frustrated when I didn't know a word and would have to look it up, and then it also kind of takes away from the passage. You have to read the word, read the definition, and then put it in the context that it's written in, and it just took up a lot of time, so I didn't comprehend much of anything. I also found a quote on page 229 of the article by Duke and Carlisle that explains why I got frustrated and didn't comprehend much. The quote reads, "Rapid word recognition frees up mental resources for thinking about the writer's intent and meaning of the text, rather than what word the print represents." So basically, I took this as you're trying to understand individual words versus the entire meaning of the passage. So reading about astrophysics was not good, whereas reading about comprehension was much more interesting to me, and I understood the words, so it was easier for me to read and comprehend. So overall, I would say for best comprehension, at least for me, not having any background noise or other distractions, like the TV on. My roommate loves having the TV on while she reads her textbooks, and I don't understand that. It's also easiest for me when proper grammar and punctuation is used, because I know the second principle had a lot of punctuation issues that kept distracting me from what I was reading and getting confused. And then understanding the words in the passage by sight is also helpful. So knowing a lot of sight words for what you are reading is extremely important for comprehension. So that's my comprehension theory. Thanks for watching.